This is Spiritual Biz Chat with Kimberly Maska. Inspiration for spiritual entrepreneurs. Join our spiritual family at spiritualbizmagazine.com. You are listening to the Mindful Marketing Show podcast, episode 24. Welcome, Dina, to Mindful Marketing. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you.
Wonderful. So you have an incredible story. So what is your personal journey? Share with us that story about how you came to the 3x3 meditation and writing your book and the life that you're on now.
Absolutely. So towards the end, I'll start kind of towards the beginning. At the end of 2008 is when I hit my lowest rock bottom point in my life. I was in my early 30s, and throughout my 20s, I had struggled with clinical depression. I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder. And throughout my 20s, I became increasingly more desperate in trying to fix that black hole inside of myself. You know, I was living with roommates and then living alone because I thought my living situation was why I was depressed. Or, you know, I was changing jobs every 9 months and changing boyfriends all the time and getting new cars and all of this, changing cities, thinking that something on the outside was going to fix me. And when I got towards my later 20s is when that inner hole inside of myself, like I just started feeling like I didn't want to wake up in the morning. If this was going to be it, if this was going to be life, like it really doesn't matter to me if I carry on. And that was the point where I went into a new kind of living situation where I was living in a bit of a party kind of atmosphere. And I began drinking. And because of, you know, I'd never really been an addictive drinker up until that point. But because of that emotional desperation inside and the clinical depression expanding, all the help I had gone to just wasn't hitting home. It wasn't working for me. I think they're valid modalities, but it wasn't working for what I needed it to do to make myself feel better. And I started drinking. And when I did that, something happened inside of me where I felt normal or worthy or deserving for the first time in my entire life. And it was, I mean, obviously it's a sickness. It's really sad that alcohol has to be the thing that brings that to you, but that's what happened to me. And I quickly became an around-the-clock drinker. But as I started drinking more, I became a person that I didn't really recognize. I couldn't face myself in the mirror. And that's when I decided to choose a date to take my own life. I had stolen money from one too many people, woken up next to one too many people, I couldn't tell you their name, and lied to one too many friends. And I just wanted out of what my life had become. And obviously, instead of taking a date for my life through a bunch of synchronicities and really, I feel like divine intervention, I ended up in an addiction recovery program. And when I finally gave up trying to do things my way and, just really saying, you know what, this is where I belong. I need help. And I'm willing to do the steps that this program is going to take me through to find a peace and a wellness and to let go of the drinking I had done for the previous 2 or 3 years. So the first thing that I chose a mentor to kind of lead me through the program. And her first instruction to me was that I needed to learn to meditate. And at the time, I was not a person who believed in God. I was not a person who believed in much of anything. And I could not put my mind around the idea that sitting still in this like floaty, weird, wistful type of way was going to do anything for me. You know, I thought I should be writing letters that I was burning and, beating pillows with baseball bats and that sort of thing. But she was really great with me. She was very tough love. And she said, every idea you've had so far doesn't seem to be working for you. Why don't you try my idea for a while? And what am I going to say to that? So what ended up happening, her instruction to me was to sit still every morning for 20 minutes and focus on my breathing. And I thought, I don't think it'll do much of anything, but I'll give it a try. And so those first few mornings, I set my timer, I sat like she told me to, and I made an attempt to focus on my breathing. But what happened, because I was still in withdrawal and detox from alcohol addiction, and the negative suicidal thoughts were just running rampant in my mind, I couldn't physically sit still for longer than 3 minutes at a time. My body would just shake uncontrollably. I would be sweating. The negative thoughts were just running rampant. And it was physically intolerable for me to sit still for longer than 3 minutes at a time. But a couple hours later into the day, it would nag at me like, all she told me to do was sit for 20 minutes. I can't even do that. Like, let me see if I can fit in a couple more minutes right now and see if I can sit like she's telling me to. And so I would do that. And that's eventually what turned into what I call 3x3 meditation. Because I was unable to follow the instructions at the time, I began just meditating kind of in 3-minute, which was the tolerable increments for me, several times a day. And after about 8 weeks, I had an experience in what I can only call a state of higher consciousness. And so I was let in on this kind of majorly blissful but grounded kind of viewpoint and perspective of life. And when I had that experience based on those 3-minute, several times a day meditations, I knew that I had something here. I knew that I was tapping into internal wisdom. And so eventually out of that is what I now call 3x3 meditation. So it's 3 minutes, 3 times a day. And when I work with businesses, I label it as the 3x3 focus system. So it's 3-minute focus breaks for productivity and all of that throughout the day. The way that I kind of turned this into a business was I went to a retreat that was led by Jack Canfield, who writes the Chicken Soup for the Soul books, if you're familiar with those. And so I had brought some of the little messy writing that I had done just really to share with a couple people that I was working with in the addiction recovery program. I was not planning to share this on a mass scale, but something inside me said, share your writing with Jack. And I remember sharing it with him, and he said, Dina, this is really powerful stuff. Like, it's raw, it's compelling, and it can help a lot of people. Have you thought about turning it into a book? Have you thought about being a coach? And at the time, I was an administrative executive assistant. Like, I did not want to leave my small, steady day job. I did not want to share my shameful story with the world or any of that. But he held, and his team held for me, a vision of something I could create that could help people and also sustain me financially that I had no access to and no idea about. And so that's how I started out on, first of all, that's how I created 3x3 meditation, which is kind of my signature modality of healing. And then also how I got into the door of how to create a book, how to start a business, how to be a coach, and how to speak in front of groups and bring my message in this modality to the world in a really big way. And it's now impacting tens of thousands of people throughout the world. Like, if I died today, I could honestly say I have fulfilled my life's purpose. Like, it's so amazing. And I'm just so happy.
That's such a beautiful story. And I love how you took the meditation and made it your own. Because so many people, and I think a lot of my listeners were in Mind, Body, Spirit, so we probably, a lot of us do meditate, but there's so many people that go, how in the world do you do that? But I love how you took it and made it your own, and it absolutely worked for you. That's great.
Yeah.
So what was the first step? So now that you know, okay, this is what I'm going to do, turn it into a business. Now we're looking at the business side. What was the first step in actually saying, okay, we're going to get the LLC and we're going to move forward? What was the first thing you did?
Well, the first thing was to get the book done. And to do that, I was writing largely while I was still in my day job. Like, I would get up at 4:30 or 5 in the morning and go to a coffee shop before work and try to get some writing done. And it was really apparent to me that I couldn't do both. The writing had to express itself, and I couldn't hold a full-time day job at the same time. And so through another bunch of synchronicities, I was able to transition into part-time work. And so I was able to kind of go from there. But then it was obvious to me that I needed to leave the job behind kind of altogether. And I had to work actually with Jack about that, because I was totally terrified of not even having a book out there yet. Like, how am I going to be making money while I'm doing this? And being free of the day job so I could free up my mind so I wasn't having split focus. Like, half the day I'm like administrative, busy focus, and half the time I'm like in this spiritual, wonderful world. So I was able to get over my fear about, I guess it's like 2.5 years ago that I left my day job and finished my book. And my book came out about 1.5 years ago. And so I formed the LLC. I definitely wanted to have a business separation from my kind of normal personal expense separation. And I went to, not because I thought I needed it to become a coach, because I had worked informally with people over the couple of years before that. And I knew that what I had could help people. 3x3 meditation is great for practical results in your life, whether you want to lose weight or, have more productivity at work, get better at sales, manifest abundance. It's all done in mindset first. And that's what 3x3 helps us do. And so for me, it was about getting my mind minds, like I had that LLC before I even had my first client, before my book was even launched, because I needed to start feeling like a business person before I really was a full-on business person. And so it got my mind into that. Then I started thinking about like, how can I bring 3x3 meditation to help people? And so that's when I went and I got a certification to become a certified professional success coach. And it was more to make myself feel legitimate, because I don't really use a lot of the techniques. They're perfectly valid and amazing techniques. The place I got my certification from is top notch and they're really, really great. But I just knew that my modality would give me whatever I needed to coach people, and that this was kind of a new thing being born. So instead of needing to learn from somebody else, I more went to get my certification as a validation, like, okay, I can say that I'm certified. I feel legitimate now and I can bring this into the world. So those were the first kind of steps that I took to get my mind business oriented, to get me feeling legitimate in the coaching field, and to pave the way so that I could create a successful, self-sufficient kind of business down the road.
That's great. I love how you got the LLC first, like build it and they will come.
It's exactly right. You know, that's how I felt.
So as you build this, so now you have to look at marketing and bringing people in. So what marketing strategy has worked best for you and how did you go about that process?
Okay, this is a great question. Okay, and I'm going to answer it a little bit in a spiritual way, because it is my belief, and what I learned when I was kind of in that white light moment, that anything in our physical world is merely a reflection of what's going on with us on the inside. And so we can kind of connect that with everyday life. Like when we're feeling positive and feeling energized, things tend to go better. When we know we're on our game, we get more clients. So we know that mindset is important. And so one of the things from the beginning was that I wanted to see how much power visualization could have in creating my business. And I started with my book launch, because I learned from my business mentor. Her name is Peggy McCall, and she's amazing. And she teaches people how to make their books bestsellers. And that's what I wanted to learn, because I'm nobody. Nobody's ever heard of me. Nobody's ever heard of 3x3. Like, yes, I have a couple of great endorsements, but how on earth am I going to get my name out there? And so becoming a best-selling author for me was a goal that I held, not because it was like, oh, hey, so I can be Dina Proctor, best-selling author. It wasn't like this ego thing or even an internal validation. For me, the book climbing up the charts means that it is able to impact that many more people around the world. That many more people are hearing about it and being able to transform their lives. So that was my kind of guiding force and motivation, which I'm sure that most mind body, people in our field would probably relate to what I'm saying with that. It's like, it's about getting the message out there. And so I learned probably a million things that you could do to launch your book, but I kept it really simple. I had a handful of people send emails on my behalf, and then I visualized, and my book hit number one in its category on Amazon within like hours of its launching. So for me, the crucial part, and we can talk about nitty gritty like marketing strategy, like I don't just sit on the couch and kind of wait, but what I do is I make sure that my action feels inspired, because I think that's where a lot of people may go wrong in marketing strategies. Kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm totally overwhelmed. Let me just, throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks, or let me just call all these people just because I met them at a conference and see if they'd want to partner with me. And like, we just kind of feel undirected. We don't feel like we're acting from we're almost just kind of taking action or connecting with people just to be busy or just to get it done. More coming from a place of wanting to fill that void inside, of feeling like, okay, I'm doing enough work to get this out there, rather than if you come from a place of being centered, grounded, and mindful. I was able to connect with like maybe a handful of people that were able to get the message out on my behalf. And I visualized and I held that, and the book was able to hit bestseller status. So it's like I was able to take probably less action than many people take when they're launching their book, because it was more about the meaning behind why I was doing this. I was taking action, but only if it felt inspired, not just to kind of go on the wall and see what sticks type of thing. And that's how I've branched out in my business in general. Somebody asked me once, like, oh, do you do 3x3 in businesses? And I thought, oh my gosh, no, I sure don't. Like, that hadn't even occurred to me. But that had the seed be planted in me and be born. And I've already done pilot programs, and I'm already now coaching other people and teaching them how to bring 3x3 into businesses. So it's not that it's like, okay, let me design this big, huge business for me personally, because it's different for everybody. But for me personally, it was less about sitting down and outlining big, broad stroke strategies and more about just listening to that intuitive guidance. Because it's like people would ask me questions or ask me, am I creating this? People wanted guided meditations. I've never listened to a guided meditation. So, now I do because I know that they're out there. But when I was having my healing, it was all about the images and visualizations that I was holding in my mind's eye to create my own healing and transform my relationships. So it didn't even occur to me to create guided meditations, but people were really inspired by that, especially my clients who knew my voice and kind of trusted my voice. They wanted something in my voice. And so that has turned out to be huge. I'm part of like a gigantic app by Mind Valley where I have sold tens of thousands of meditations. It's just beyond what I would ever have expected from it. So now I do videos and newsletters, but I've not done anything I haven't felt up to speed with beginning. And of course, you still have a little bit of fear, but there's a difference between feeling frenetic and scattered and just doing things because you feel like you should be doing something and just saying, you know what, I'm open. I am terrified to put myself on video. I am terrified to record these guided meditations. I'm terrified to coach people. I'm terrified to launch this book. Like we have the fear and we feel and we work through the fear. So it's not necessarily about being totally absent of fear before you take any action, but it's about being grounded and centered and just knowing this is the right next step for me. And yes, it's a little bit scary, but I know I'm ready for this. I know I can take this on. And so that's kind of how my business strategy, I guess, has unfolded over the last couple of years.
I love it. It's based on fear. No, we don't want to say that.
No, it's true.
I love it. So what challenges did you find other than the visualization? So as you're creating it and actually starting to get into the nitty gritty of marketing, what were the biggest challenges you found and that you think other mind, body, spirit entrepreneurs face as well?
I think my biggest challenge was that nobody's ever heard of me. That's what I felt. And I also felt like I'm not using a modality that people are familiar with. If I was being trained in something that everybody has heard of, it may be different to get my foot into the door. So I felt like I was starting from a place of, first of all, no one's heard of me. And second of all, no one has heard of or proved that this modality is valuable. So those were my challenges in the beginning. And so to overcome the fact that nobody had ever heard of me, I just thought, you know what? I wonder if what I actually started doing, Kimberly, was I started my own podcast. That was someone had told me that would be a good idea. Of course, I was terrified to do that in the beginning too. But it was a great way for me to connect with people I may not have otherwise connected with. And so I was able to interview people that are already really well established in the mind-body connection field and have huge followings so that when they would share with their people, and I never obligated them to, I never said, oh, you have to share this or whatever. But if they felt inspired to share that and mention something about me, I would notice like, oh, I'm getting more hits today, or I see an increase in whatever the book sales are or whatever. And so I noticed that by connecting with people who are already well established, that helped me overcome it. But there's a difference between just reaching out to get an endorsement in a hollow way, just so you can say, oh, I have an endorsement from this person. That doesn't strike me as authentic and genuine. For me, it was like I was reaching out to people whose work I admired, who I really found value in, like Jack. I had learned from him. And I said, listen, can I interview you? Can I share your message with my people? And so that's a win-win because I'm learning from him as I'm interviewing him. I have tremendous respect for his work. He has tremendous respect for my work, and we both share it. A lot of people benefit from hearing his wisdom and get introduced to me. So it's not about, oh, let me find the biggest names in the industry and just go out and reach out to them and get this, kind of hollow endorsement. Every person that I have interviewed or gotten an endorsement from would definitely recognize me on the street and would take my phone call. They're people that I've cultivated relationships with, not just to get an endorsement, but to just establish like, hey, I'm on the scene here and I have something valuable that you might actually find valuable too. And they're like, having the same thing. So seeing yourself as your message and your modality is worthy, is good, is because I've believed in my stuff from day one. I just didn't have anybody else who kind of believed in it or had even heard of it. But the more that I share it, and even with people that are, kind of gurus in the field, they're all like, we could really see how that's powerful. And I've had people that everybody would have heard of emailing me and saying, hey, listen, can you record a 3x3 meditation for for me, for public speaking, I get terrified to speak when I speak in front of hundreds of thousands of people. Can you record that for me? Yes, I can. Can you help, somebody that I know is struggling starting meditation? Will you help them? Yes, I will. And so it creates like a friendship and a relationship. So instead of just going out there, like where I'm really putting emphasis is on being authentic, connecting with people because there's authentically something to share. And if they are inspired to give me an endorsement or to share my work, I think, that has been amazing. And that's been one of the ways that I overcame that challenge of nobody knows who I am. Yeah.
And that's what mindful marketing is all about, right? Being authentic and making that connection. And I will say to my listeners, the podcasting is such a brilliant thing. I have made the most incredible friends and connections doing this. And if you love to talk, you just sit around and chat with your friends and it's fantastic.
Yeah, it really is. It's so fun. And it helps people too, because there's always, when two really good minds come together, there's always wisdom to be shared and people are benefiting from that. So I'm so glad you're doing it too.
Adding value to the world, we are.
Yeah.
So you've made these incredible connections via podcasting, but there's other people out there you're trying to get to. So who is your ideal client and how do you market to those clients?
For me, my ideal client, and this may sound kind of broad strokes, but my ideal client is someone who understands that mindset creates their reality. Like, for example, let me just give you the example of weight loss or something about the body health. And so I was able to, when I was going through my healing, largely my healing from addiction came from my meditation. Obviously, I did the addiction recovery program, but if I hadn't had the meditation, it may not have been such a deep, profound healing for me. Also, my replacement addiction was eating. And so I went up a couple sizes. When I got into the place where I developed this intuitive eating practice and I was connecting with the cells of my body and what food they were calling for and eating in this really satisfying way, I lost 7 pounds in 10 days. I've also used, meditation to visualize lowering my cholesterol. I've had all these body things. And so when I teach the body kind of transformation or weight loss to other people, I'm looking for people. And my thing is not just, my ideal client isn't just for weight loss. I just want to use this really specific example. So it's someone who is currently struggling with something I have struggled with, and I can give them a brand new way to look at it and a way to have a breakthrough in something that nobody else has taught before. So my ideal client is somebody who is struggling in a way that they understand or have a basic idea that mindset and belief has something to do with why their outer reality is stuck, whether it's financially or body or relationships. It's I know that I could probably do some kind of meditation or visualization work to have a breakthrough here. I've had breakthroughs in other life areas as well, but I don't know how to do it here. And so that's my ideal client. They're already a little bit up to speed with knowing that mindset can change their reality. They already have a belief behind that, and they just want to get into the nitty gritty of how exactly this works. And so when I'm able to come at them and say, listen, I see how you're struggling and why you're struggling. I've struggled with debt. I've struggled with weight. I've struggled with building a business. I've struggled with horrible relationships and needing to make amends to people. I can help you with this too. And so that's what my ideal kind of client is for me now.
That's amazing, because it's all about our experiences, right? And that's such a beautiful thing to be able to base your life's purpose on what your experience is and what you can teach. It's so incredible.
Yeah, it really is. It's so powerful.
Are you, I'm going to assume the answer is yes, but to what degree are you using social media to do your marketing?
Oh, I built my whole thing on social media. I didn't even know. Well, I did know. I would be lying if I didn't say that. If I said I didn't know, I should be sending newsletters. But newsletters were didn't even apply to me because I built most of my business on Facebook. That's how I got my first clients. That's how I got, connected with people. That's how I reached out to people and connected with people for my podcast, was reaching out and just going on Facebook. And I would just go on Facebook. This is, a few years ago, probably before my book came out, maybe 3 years ago or 2 years ago. And I would just go on Facebook and tell myself, I just want to look for 10 new people a day who delight me when I look at their page, or that look really neat and that I want to connect with. It wasn't about the numbers. It was about, I want to connect with and get to know people who are doing what I'm doing, or people that look like maybe I could be of service to, and then post relevant content to them. And so now I've come out with like these little quotes of the day, and I put them on a real pretty picture that I took at the beach, and I put on these quotes of the day, and then they're able to share that. It's just like a little mantra or an affirmation that you can bring with you. And that has been, now handfuls of people share that. I've been doing that for several weeks now. And so people start sharing that, and it's inspiring, and that gets people to come to your website. What else do you want? What else do you have from here? And so providing people with something of value, and also sharing from your core, sharing for what's going on with you. If I'm having an incredibly blissful day, I will share that and just say how grateful I am, because 5 years ago, there's no way I would have even known this bliss was possible. And people can relate to that. So it's about sharing authentically, sharing from your heart. I feel like my Facebook community, or my social media community, and even my newsletter and stuff, like they're friends. They're people that maybe I haven't met yet, but we are all after a common thing. We're all after this inner peace thing. We're all after what we want to experience in our lives, and know that mindset, that intuition, that divine wisdom can come in there and create it. And we get together and kind of inspire each other on how to do that. So that's how I built my business to begin with. From the very, very beginning, was all just sharing, mostly on Facebook. Of course, I have all the social medias, but that's where I had the best breakthroughs in terms of connecting with other people.
It's amazing how when you just share that little piece, I always say we're sharing a piece of our soul, and it opens so many doors. It's a pretty amazing thing.
Yeah, really true.
So let's chat a little bit about Madly Chasing Peace, which is your book, and what process did you go through, and what did you learn from that you can share with my listeners?
From the book writing itself, you mean?
Yeah,
the
writing and releasing and getting it out there.
Yeah, great question. So I discovered early on that I am not one of those people that says, oh, I write from 7 to 9 every morning. I am just, that is not how my writing inspiration works. I would block if I had this pressure of time to get it done. I know it works for a lot of people, and I think that's great. If that works for you, awesome. But if it doesn't, maybe what I did might work for you. What I did to kind of get the book out of me was I got the smallest little laptop that I could find, and I promised to keep it, I kept it in my purse. And I would just kind of, in my meditations, I would promise, and I would say, like, I will always have a method to take down any inspiration that comes to me during the day. And I will always have this with me. I'll have it by my bedside. I'll have it with me as I'm running errands, or, at the time I had a day job while I'm at work. If something comes to me that feels like a nugget of wisdom or inspiration that needs to go in the book, I will write this down. And so I've written in the bathroom at Nordstrom's, like there's been, it's like you never know when those little nuggets of wisdom are going to come. And so this is what happened, because we're talking about the importance of mindset, right? And so for me, if my mindset is like, oh my gosh, I only have 2 hours and I need to crank out 3,000 words or whatever, it just blocks right up for me, and my well goes dry. Like I just have no inspiration when I have something like that. But if I approach it from a place of curiosity, like I'm so curious to see when my next wisdom will come from. And every time I put that laptop in my purse, I would just hold the intention of like, I'm totally open to receiving the message. I'm open to being the universe's scribe. Like I'm open for the voice of my highest wisdom to come through whenever it sees fit, And I would find myself like at the weirdest times, like waiting on a line, or out shopping, or even sometimes at work when I was engrossed with something. Basically, when I was not thinking about writing, my mind was nice and relaxed, and the intuitive guidance could come through with a little bit of inspiration. So that's how I physically got the book done. That's how the writing kind of came through me. And of course, when one line of inspiration comes to you, then you get into a paragraph, then suddenly you've written a chapter, then you're revising another chapter. And it's like, it really takes no time at all once that well of inspiration is flowing. So that was my way of being able to activate my muse, was be curious about it rather than, put deadlines or timelines on myself. And so that was how I got the book physically written. And then of course I had like really fantastic editor. And for me, my poor editor, she's like, the quotation marks go outside the punctuation, Dina, like very basic stuff. Like and I'm an intelligent person, but I'm not a writer. So I didn't even know there's, the structure. She really helped me structure my book. She was more like she's an incredible editor, but also a bit of a writing mentor. Like she went above and beyond for me to structure that book together. So, and I signed my editor before I was even like I had only written what I had presented to Jack Canfield. It was like, what turned into like maybe 4 chapters of the book, but I didn't even know it was a book. So that signing her early on and getting to work with her from the beginning as I was creating my book, that might not be what everybody has to do, but I was so super green with it and I'd never really written anything. So I needed that guidance. So partnering up with somebody else, or even if you have an accountability partner or a writing buddy where you guys get together on, Wednesday evenings and drink tea and share what you've written during the week and spend a half an hour of just generating new writing, like something like that. But having somebody else as part of the process was really key for me in being able to get the book done. So, and then I had to decide, like, how do I want to publish this thing? And for me, it made sense to hang on to the rights of my book because I've had people that were interested, like, I don't know if it would ever really go anywhere, but people that were interested in making it into a movie. And so it was important to me in the beginning to keep the rights to my book and just kind of keep it clean and not get that mixed up with a publisher in case I decided to do something else with my story. I don't even know how all of that would work, but something intuitively said, keep it simple, just keep the rights to all of your stuff. And so I wasn't really peddling out to big publishers. And a lot of people prefer to use big publishers because it helps with, getting a bigger name out there and getting more marketing publicity. But it just made sense to me to keep it to my own. And so my publisher is Morgan James, and they're, first of all, fantastic human beings. Even the president of the company is like, if you want to talk once a week about your book, like, we'll talk once a week. Like, he's just been so supportive of me and my message from the very beginning, like, very fantastic organization. But it was great because they were able to, I don't know how to format this book. I don't know about fonts. I don't know how to get a cover designed or anything like that. They did all of that. They distributed it around the world, got the physical things printed, and all I needed to do was give them my ideas and my final manuscript, and then I'm able to keep the rights to it. So that's just what ended up feeling right for me, and a couple of people that I considered mentors had recommended them to me. So that's how it went from being nothing to becoming published, to becoming, written, to becoming edited, to becoming published. So hopefully that kind of gives an overview of my little process.
And I love having the partner. I'm actually working with someone right now and doing that partnership. And I am no editor. I have a team that does that, but just in the initial stages. And I can see how it helps. And it's so fun to be part of that creative process. Even if you're not doing it yourself, but watching someone else, it's such a blessing to be part of that.
It really is. It's so true. It was really, really integral for me. Mm-hmm.
So what has been your biggest challenge with marketing?
It's a good question. Maybe, I don't know, because the biggest challenge overall was just feeling like I was unknown. And I've kind of already spoken to that. In terms of marketing, you know what? I think this will really help because I was afraid of putting a newsletter together because I felt like in my newsletter, like my intuitive guidance was saying, put videos in your newsletter. And that is going to be really successful for you. And I was terrified to talk to the camera. And I would try and I would meditate on it. And it would just be hollow and fake and weird and uncomfortable and not something that I was really ready to share yet. But I held that intention inside of me for a year and a half before I started launching newsletters. And suddenly one day, just something switched inside of me. And I thought, you know what? I think I can do a video right now. I think I can do a video today. And so I just opened up my little, laptop. I put on the camera and I started recording and I was like, holy cow, I'm really ready. And so the thing with probably the challenge in marketing with me was getting ready to share my message in multiple kind of mediums and modalities. Before I started recording guided meditations, I was terrified of doing that. I didn't like my voice. I didn't like the way it sounded. I didn't know how to edit the audios. All of these kind of things came up for me as like these little fears that I was having of I'm not good enough to be out there in the world. So for me, in terms of it's not like I didn't know what to do. It's not like I didn't know that, I already had people signed up to be on my email newsletter and I just wasn't sending them anything. It wasn't that I didn't have a message to share. It was my own fear that was getting in my way. That was preventing me from getting it out there in the world more effectively. What are people going to think of me? That sort of thing. But when I was able to get past that and remember, wait a minute, this message is so much bigger than me. And if I just share in a raw, real, honest way, this can benefit other people. And that's kind of been my experience with it, you know, in when I'm able to just speak from my heart and not have to worry my hair is not perfect, or, oh, I said the word or, you know, those sorts of things, and just connect in with my heart, those things took care of themselves. And the more content and the more different mediums you have out there, the better received you are, because some people are looking for audio, some people are looking to read stuff, and some people are looking for videos. And so the more that you're able to create, again, in an inspired way, not just kind of, oh my gosh, I have to create all this stuff, I better hurry up, but just from an inspired way of creating things, that has been huge in terms of me getting, you know, people on board with my message and getting my message out there in a bigger way in the world.
That's great. And, you know, that's such a fantastic point that everyone can do a little bit of something, a little video, get your hands dirty and see what works for you too. Maybe it doesn't work for you, or maybe it does. Who knows?
Yeah.
Get out there and try. So looking back on your journey, if you had to do it all over again, knowing what you know now, what would you do differently?
I think what I would do differently is, first of all, just own my space and own that that I am more ready than I think I am. That blocked me for a while. It was the reason that I went and got a coaching certification. It was the reason it took me so long to put videos and audios out. It was the reason that I was terrified to speak in front of public groups and stuff, because I felt like this stuff is so easy for me and it's just so intuitive for me. I need something more complicated or more dazzling in order to share with the world. But when I really just owned my space and I was like, you know what, when I'm coaching, sometimes people just need to hear, all I need to say is like, you've got this. It's going to be okay. It's like, and that's so simple. You would say that to your friend, but we all need to hear it sometimes. And sometimes that's the only thing we ever need to do is so it's like value the simplicity, and also know that if your message is coming from a place of inner wisdom and it feels like it's bigger than you, it feels like it's, you know, coming through you rather than you are sitting down and creating it with your mind, it's more coming from your heart, your soul, your spirit, then just trust that however that comes across, you are good enough. You are ready enough to bring this to the world. Otherwise, it wouldn't be such a screaming passion inside of yourself. So if I was going to do it differently, I would own and, you know, kind of hone up that self-confidence within me to get myself out there probably sooner. You know, everything would have just launched. Nothing's wrong with the way that everything has unfolded for me. It's been quite magical. But I think that if I were to do it differently and I had just owned my space and realized that even though this feels simple, intuitive, and easy for me, it's what other people struggle with and therefore is of value. So I'm getting out of my own way and sharing it with the world and owning that this is something valuable, and I don't necessarily need a ton of training and, you know, 800 mentors and all of that sort of thing. Like, yes, of course, training is valuable and mentors are valuable, but some of us can get stuck in like, I'm just not ready, I need to take another class, or I'm just not ready, I need to, you see what I mean? And so that kept me stuck for a little while. And so that is what I would do differently, is just realize I'm more ready than I think I am, and I'm going to feel the fear and work through it and go ahead and jump and do this anyways, you know?
Jumping is so key, because otherwise, yeah, you do get stuck and I got to learn more. And then there's this course and that course. And then you get so overwhelmed, you don't even know where to go.
Exactly. It's so true. So true.
So what are the next big steps for you in building your platform?
Well, the biggest thing I'm doing right now is I just launched, just like a month ago, maybe not even that, coaching certification. So I've had my individual coaching for a while. I've had my business coaching, which is still kind of in its infancy stages, but taking off. And then I have been asked by a few people, could you certify me so that I can coach like you do? Because obviously 3x3 meditation doesn't just mean you tell people, oh, sit still for 3 minutes 3 times a day. It's like, what do you do within those? And how do you help people with their mindset? There's like all these key concepts, and, you know, it's an entire modality how I coach. And so it was like, okay, let me put this into like a curriculum, see, you know, kind of weed down everything that I know so I'm able to transmit it to another. And I was able to do just that. And I already have a handful of people who have started and are interested in becoming certified 3x3 meditation and 3x3 focus coaches. And so that is coming out new for me. I'm also starting to partner with, it's too early to kind of give details on it, but I'm starting to partner with people, not to co-create with 3x3 meditation, but other people with different modalities and taking a topic, whether it be weight loss or entrepreneurship or abundance, and creating programs with them so that we have like a 2 or 3 pronged approach. Like, here's how you can use meditation to have this breakthrough. Here's how you can use this other modality to have this breakthrough, et cetera. And so partnering with people to bring, because this way my information is being shared with their audience. Their stuff is being shared with my audience. It's a lot of great cross-pollination, and it's hugely valuable content with a few different prongs and modalities within it to share with other people. I'm also part of, there's a new documentary that I've already been recorded for, but it hasn't been released yet. It's a movie called The Last Formula, and Jack Canfield's in it, John Gray from Men Are Mars, Women Are Venus, Marcy Shimoff, Tony Hsieh from Zappos. There's a whole list of people that are talking about consciousness in business. And so it's kind of like, you know, how the format of the movie The Secret, that's kind of how I think it's going to be. It's like, you know, just people sharing their wisdom one-on-one, talking to the camera about how to bring consciousness into business. And so being part of that movie, which will be released, I would imagine, in the next like 6 months to a year, something like that. So those are the irons in the fire that I have right now. And of course, I'm constantly creating new videos, new audio meditations. And I'm also, people have been approaching me. It's so interesting. I was just on the phone this week with there are a lot of, it's kind of like video blogs. And also, you know, there's a lot of websites that have almost like Netflix, but for mind, body, spirit. And you pay a fee and then you can take all these online classes. And so I've been approached by several different sites that want me to create video content because they've seen my videos on my website, create video content for their things. And so everything needs to be unique and different. I can take my wisdom and share it on all these different platforms too. I was talking to one of them this week and they were saying, we've seen your videos on like a number of different platforms. How did you find all of them? And I said, I don't know. They've all found me, and I don't know how that's all happened. It's my intention that 3x3 meditation and 3x3 focus system reach out and uplift and inspire those people that resonate with it. And since I hold that vision, it's kind of like a lighthouse. I love that visual of a lighthouse, that when you're shining brightly, the boats that seek will be drawn to you. You don't really have to go anywhere. Of course, you do take action and those sorts of things, but you start to notice as you get better and better at sharing your message, there's all these synchronicities that come up, like clients just contact you to find out about you, or, oh, I saw you on Facebook, or I saw you on the internet. And it's just like, how on earth did these people hear of me? And it's really that greater underlying intuitive guidance. That's what's going on, I think. So those are just a little couple ideas of what I have kind of irons in the fire that are going on right now.
Just one or two things, that's all.
Yeah, it's so exciting. It's really, really
I'm excited for you. I cannot wait to see where all of this goes.
Me too. Oh, me too.
So any last bit of advice you can give the listeners that are thinking of starting their business and maybe hemming and hawing a little bit, or just one last little nugget that you have?
Yeah, I do, because I've been at the place where it's like, should I do this? Is this smart financially? Is this valuable? Do I have this? And I would say that if in your heart and in your bones, your message is just singing through you and so passionate, you feel like you're bursting, that you want to share it with people, it's time. Like, you're more ready than you might think you are. And it's kind of more easy than we think it is. It's like when I started talking in front of groups, I never thought that I was ready, because it was like, oh, I'm not sparkly enough, and I don't do my hair right, and I don't know how to jump around the stage and keeps people's attention, and blah, blah, blah. It was like, the more that I just talk when I'm on stage, in terms of like, as I would talk to friends at dinner, or as I would talk to a coaching client, when I tell stories, when I be myself, the message gets across. That's how I do my videos. That's how I do my audios. That's how I do pretty much everything, is I talk to people as if it's just us. We're in a really casual environment, because that's how I have found it. And it's not for everybody. Obviously, there are hugely dynamic speakers that speak way differently than I do. And I'm not just talking about speaking, but in terms of bringing your business to life, if you just be yourself and tell your stories, it is valuable to people. And the passion you feel inside is your indication. If I want to give it, there necessarily is somebody or somebodies that are ready to receive it. And so, we're more ready than we think we are. And obviously take action guided by your intuition, and have mentors and accountability people. Like, don't just, kind of act willy-nilly. but when you're centered and grounded, and you feel like this is valuable for people, it is. And you can get it out there in a way that it can be easier than you think to build a business around this, to have a book into the world, and to bring your passion in a really big way.
That's fantastic advice. So if my listeners want to reach out to you and hear your meditations and everything, where would be the best place for them to find you?
I have everything all on one website, and there's a bunch of URLs that lead to that one place, but it's all right in one place. And the easiest way to find it is just to go to madlychasingpeace.com. There's all information about the coaching, the audios, the videos, and then also like my contact information, all in one place.
Fantastic. Well, I am so grateful for you having been here. The amount of information you've given us has been phenomenal. Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm so glad. It's always my mission to have as much value, as possible for people. So I really do hope it was helpful. And I appreciate the invitation. Thank you, Kimberly.
You're so welcome.
You've been listening to Spiritual Biz Chat with Kimberly Maska. Inspiration for spiritual entrepreneurs. Hear our latest interviews and join our spiritual family at spiritualbizmagazine.com.